Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hi, red.olaghlin here on the Wise Ones on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. Today, Emilia Yonge is going to be our guest. She is also known as the EM Woman. She's an Army vet, been involved for many years now with energy, healing, and medicine. And we have a lot of topics to discuss today: mental health, energy medicine, PTSD, suicide prevention, and cancer survivorship. So anyway, Emilia, please join me.
Hi, Red.
Hi there. And another thing, Emilia's local here in the Houston area, as local can be. She's probably 50 miles away from me, but still it's local in Houston, local in Texas, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But let's start with your Army veteran status. I'm being a Navy veteran myself. I'm just always interested in what the other people did in the other services. Tell us just a little bit about your contribution to our nation's security.
Well, I joined the U.S. Army Reserves my first year in the United States. I believe that was 1993, if I remember correctly. So I was in the reserves for a couple of years, and I didn't realize that I was a veteran until I met one of your friends, Mike Martin, and he convinced me that I'm a veteran. Over the years, other veterans have told me that I'm a veteran, but I didn't have enough hours on active duty to be considered a veteran by the VA, so I do not get benefits. So I didn't think that I was a veteran. But then when I met Mike, he convinced me since I have a DD-214.
You have a DD-214, you're a veteran. Simple as that.
Right. So
I mean,
there you go.
That's the easiest way. Now, obviously, I think if you have less than 90 days serving, if there's some strange reason that they wouldn't want you to stay, that there can be some issues there. But if you have a DD-214, it's a valid one. You're a veteran. Simple as that.
Yeah.
And, I don't know why the VA has an issue, but you never know. That all sorts of things that change over time. But anyway, I wanted to get that part out of the way first because we have such a wide area of things to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we jump into your cancer thriver, not survivor mode? Tell us a little bit about that, because my wife also had breast cancer maybe a year or two before you did. So I have something I'm very familiar with. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your cancer situation and how you conquered it and what worked and didn't work and whatever else you want to share with us.
Well, I was diagnosed in 2016, and the cancer journey was actually not such a difficult journey for me during the 2 years of treatments because, I had already been dealing with mental illness issues in my family for decades before that. And I think that mental illness is a bigger beast. So I was a model patient, and when you are a cancer patient, you receive a lot of love from people, not just the doctors and nurses, but friends, even strangers. Everybody gives you a lot of love and support. So it was a breeze, actually. And it was after the 2 years that once we had already rung all the bells, and everybody's congratulating you for having kicked cancer, then you're pretty much dropped from the orbit of doctors and nurses and all that, and your friends have already stopped putting food at your doorstep. And I guess that's when the mental health fallout sets in. And your family, like my husband and my children, they didn't have any support during those 2 years. And so they expected me to be like how I used to be, but it was a new normal for me. So in a way, it's kind of like a soldier returning from war. My younger daughter, for example, was 9 when I was diagnosed, and when I was done, she was a preteen. So she changed completely from someone who was always in my face and using me as furniture to a preteen who didn't want me to be close and so forth. So it was that was hard. Actually, it was yes, the mental health fallout post cancer treatments. That was the hard part for the whole family.
Interesting. I didn't experience that with my wife.
Mhm.
It may have occurred. It just wasn't noticeable. I'll have
Mhm.
to hear about it. Uh, but we, 1 year after she got her clean bill of health from her oncologist,
Mhm.
we walked the Camino de Santiago. It's 500
Mhm.
miles. We did 30 days. And
Mhm.
that was her Thanksgiving for beating the cancer. So, but
Mhm.
anyway, I know that you have a personal story about suicide, and then one of your focuses in life is suicide prevention. So why don't we go down that street for a little bit?
Yes, technically, I would say that I became involved in healing work when I was 16, and I prevented a parent's suicide. And that changed my life. It was a mile marking event in my life and set the stage for the rest of my life. And so, suicide prevention is a big deal for me. And my parent is still alive, just turned 82, and has written 4 books. So it just goes to show that it is preventable. And since that time, I've prevented other suicides as well. And so that is really a driving force behind my work.
The EM woman.
Hmm.
Okay, tell us a little bit about how you chose that as a moniker.
Well, because people call me M, my friends call me M. And I thought, okay, so EM, that stands for energy medicine. And my company, Sumantra Holistic LLC, that's kind of a mouthful, and it doesn't really stick. That it's a Sanskrit name. Sumantra means good prayer. So I figured, okay, the M woman, that's much easier. so so that's why. And also because energy medicine is the field that I'm involved in, and I do many different things in that field. So I don't know, it just seemed like it was appropriate.
Okay, why don't we get into energy management? What is it? How does it work? What do you do? Uh, what successes have you had? Just pretend like you know what you're doing.
Well, energy medicine is a very broad topic, but basically it encompasses energy healing modalities like Reiki. That's a Japanese training program. There's also Healing Touch, which was started by a Navy nurse um, in the USA. And therapeutic touch, I believe, was a precursor of healing touch. So there's lots of different training programs, but basically energy medicine is based on ancient healing practices that you can find in almost uh, any culture throughout the world. So there's traditional, it's like a traditional form of healing. Before we had doctors and nurses and structured medical programs, people knew already how to be present for someone who is not feeling well, and usually you touch them in some way, or just being present. But anyone can relate to the fact that if you have a pain in your knee, for example, you're gonna immediately like hold that spot with your hand, right? And so, I mean, for example, that's how Reiki came about. So that's what energy medicine is, and I believe for the past 50 years or so, there have been a lot of research into that field by people like Janet Mentgen, founder of Healing Touch. I think Dolores Krieger may have been the founder of Therapeutic Touch, and so forth. And basically, they have just presented these ancient healing traditions in a more structured way using scientific and medical language. But this is something that's innate to people, and anybody and everybody can tap into their uh, ability to heal themselves. And that is really the foundation of all healing, is healing oneself. So a healer is not doing the healing for you. The healer is simply facilitating the healing that is occurring for the healee. Just like, for example, if you break a bone, and what a doctor would do would be put those two, the fragments of bone together, but it is the body that heals that heals that break. So yeah, so that's what we do. I hope I covered it in as simple and as concise a manner as I could.
Would I be correct or incorrect in assuming that getting a massage would be a healing touch
It
therapy?
is. Yes, it is. It is included. Well, to me, I think that it is included because if you're going to be doing body work of some kind, you're going to be in the person's energy field. So I think that it is part of energy medicine.
Yeah, I've got massages all over the world, and by far the best, and bar none, is the Japanese massages. For whatever reason, they seem to me to be a far, I don't necessarily say healing, but when I leave, I feel better. If it's
Hmm.
any number of other cultural kinds of ones that I've had, with
Hmm.
my career in the Navy. But it's one of those things that I really look forward to. My daughter is a police deputy sheriff, and she
Hmm.
she was a patrol officer. She was always wearing a vest and her belt, and 40, 50 pounds of stuff that she's hauling around all the time, a lot of weight on the back of her neck. And so over time she could go in and get a massage on the neck muscles and
Yes.
back, and it's amazing, just literally one or two massages and everything disappears. it's
Yep.
it's really, as you say, a healing touch.
Yes. Yes. Yeah,
um,
it's good to put that as part of your self-care, routine. I mean, everybody should have a self-care routine.
uh, you mentioned PTSD, and one of the things that I was doing some research on. uh, PTSD can happen. You don't have to be in combat to get PTSD.
Mhm.
It's a term that's used, but we associate it a lot with the military because of the more violent traumas that occur.
Mhm.
But being in an automobile wreck or other thing, I mean, there are so many less traumatic events that PTSD
Mhm.
can result from. So let's talk a little bit about PTSD. What's been your experience there?
Well, even for example, going through the cancer journey, that is, you're gonna be experiencing PTSD after that. I mean, that's exactly what happened with my family. After the 2 years of cancer treatments, then when the mental health fallout set in, that's basically PTSD. And another thing is that, from what I understand, the soldiers who experience combat PTSD, there is a large overlap, like 80%, with with those who have complex PTSD, which is trauma from the childhood and youth. And if you really think about it, um, the when recruiters recruit for the armed forces, they do focus on that demographic of youth that are looking for a place to belong, let's just say. So they might not have the best um, home environment, and so the military becomes very appealing to them. And so when you're going into something like that, then you kind of have um, a, a ripe ground for more PTSD after you've experienced combat. So yeah, so
Have you had many patients that you've helped with PTSD?
yeah, yes, actually, um, last year I did a lot of pro bono work with soldiers suffering from combat PTSD, and I would work on them on a weekly basis. And they definitely felt a difference. They well, I know one person who was um, well, when I was able to work on him on a weekly basis, he was very nice. But since I haven't been able to work on him, he's become a grumpy old man again. So yes, and actually, I'm kind of worried about that because, for example, there's one young man that I was working on a regular basis, and I helped him to get back into society because he basically withdrew from society for 10 years. And then after just, maybe 4 sessions with me, he became enthusiastic about getting back to networking and socializing for his business. So that was a big deal. And what I've noticed now, though, since I haven't been able to work on him for a few months, for several months already, I'm kind of worried about him because he seems to be on edge, and yeah, so there's a big difference. I can tell, and I'm sure if you talk to them, they would say the same thing, that they can tell the difference.
We had a guest on the show here recently, last 4 or 5 weeks. He's also here in the Houston area, and he uses hypnosis
Mm-hmm.
uh, to address. I was in one session when he was demonstrating. I was a young man that had been in the Army and had some issues. And he went through a number of different processes by which, I'm not saying self hypnosis, but he had us as the audience go through it when he was doing it, demonstrating it on the
Mm-hmm.
veteran. And it
Mm-hmm.
was interesting just how we think and how we view things, and we just a slight change in our perception
Mm-hmm.
can make a major difference in our brain's reality. And it's
Yeah.
just I was yeah, I was blown away. There's no doubt about it. Just the little things that he could do just by saying, well, visualize this. Okay, now let's change it to this. And
Mm-hmm.
just the walking your way through a process by which you can, as you say, provide somebody the ability to heal themselves,
Yeah.
which I think is a great way of stating that. Because in reality, yeah, we do heal ourselves, but sometimes we need a doctor, sometimes we need a support group, sometimes we need family. I mean, there's a lot of different things that we do need
Mm-hmm.
to affect that change. But sometimes you can have a problem, and no matter what you do, you can't fix it. Uh,
Yeah.
it's amazing. But depression, anxiety, PTSD, all have similar interwoven things, but they're triggered differently.
Yeah.
And so, if you can find the trigger, then you at least have something you can work with.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go
Yeah.
about having a conversation, trying to figure out what's causing their episodes?
Well, for me, my work. mm, With every single person that I work on an individualized basis, one on one, because I do group healings and I teach and so forth. But with one on one individualized healing sessions, I do the same thing with each person, and that is I assess their energy field at the beginning, and then we see what is present in the energy field. How does the energy field yeah, present itself? And then I talk about it with with the client. So I narrate what I am sensing, and we go over it. And actually, the way the field presents itself give clues to what's going on with the client, and together we uncover certain things about the client or his or her situation. And so it's like mirror work. It's like you look at yourself, you face yourself. And then anyway, so after the assessment, I clear the energy field and I balance the energy centers. And there might be some other kind of work as well. And then at the end of it, uh, I when we're done, we talk about what may have come up. And so yeah, so so that's what I do. So yeah, does that make sense? I'm not sure if I explained that correctly, but yeah,
Well,
there's
let's
a lot of talking.
well, let's go down that road just a little bit. Okay,
Mhm.
so you're assessing. So you're like an interview. Is that an assessment tool,
Well,
or is it
actually, I okay,
like
I
body language? Your neural linguistic programming. You're observing shifts in people's muscle tone. Anyway,
well, I when I assess the energy field, I'm talking about using higher sense perception. So, for example, we have five senses, right? Seeing, feeling, hearing, tasting, and smelling, right? Well, all those senses, there are higher levels of those senses. And that's why some people talk about extrasensory, I guess, perception. Some people talk about, for example, clairvoyance, clairaudience, sentience, I believe, claircognizance. I don't know what the smelling and the tasting would be called, but it's some kind of clair, I suppose. So when you are sensitive to the energy field, and I know a lot of people who are, and well, I am one, then you can experience the energy field in any of those ways, you see. And sometimes it's not really as I know a lot of people like to classify it as different things like clairvoyance, clairaudience, whatever, but it's really not that in well, in my experience, it's not, what do you call, separate, you know. It's just, it's a whole experience. You just have different sensory perceptions that stand out. But anyway, and anyone can actually tap into that higher sensitivity, because, for example, like if someone was blind and could not use the sense of sight, then over time their other senses become more sensitive, right? So there are ways to train yourself to be able to tap into those higher sense perceptions. So yeah, so when I assess the energy field, I'm using higher sense perception, and my work is really based on that. And teaching, I teach Reiki quite differently from other Reiki teachers because I focus on the energy field and tapping or experiencing it through higher sense perception.
now you talked about clearing the energy field.
Mhm.
Tell me about
Yeah.
that. I mean, you just wave your hand over
Well,
the top of them. You are now cleared, and move on. Is that what you do?
there are many different ways to clear the energy field. My favorite way is a healing touch technique, and basically, I guess you could compare it to For example, if you have long hair and it gets tangled, right? So then you have to brush your hair, right? So you're clearing the energy field. So like that. So um, you run your hands along the full length of the body of the person, without touching the person's physical body. So your hands and fingers are about 2 to 4 inches away from the physical body, and you clear it of any uh, blockages and other things that are compromising the natural flow of energy.
So you're grounded in your own aura wherever you're at. They're in next to you, laying down, standing up, sitting, whatever. But you extend your aura literally almost on top of them. And in the process of whatever you're doing, mentally, physically, emotionally, you're transferring or pulling away. Uh, you're readjusting an energy field. Maybe that's a better way of saying it.
Okay, so now we're getting into some interesting nuances. Okay, because there are many different ways to learn energy healing and to practice it. For example, healing touch, I've been trained in that for more than 20 years, and Reiki are very different because in healing touch, you actually basically you intervene by manipulating the energy field, so to speak. So there's different techniques to do different things because healing touch is based on nursing protocol. Okay, and that's why they have a very long certification, very complicated certification program. To this day, I'm not certified in healing touch because I've been busy doing the work. So anyway, but Reiki is the complete opposite. It's so easy, because it basically just teaches you how to be a channel for the universal energy field to flow through you. So again, you're not using your own energy field. You are simply being a channel. And so with Reiki, it's more intuitive. And that is why a lot of Reiki students, once they've got the hang of it, they don't even use the symbols, which are, the thing that Reiki is known for. And they just find their own way using their own intuition. So I'm kind of somewhere in the middle.
Okay, you mentioned almost mentioned the word tapping, emotional freedom techniques. Is that one that is used? And then the second part of that is pranayamas, your breathing exercises.
Okay.
Are
Okay.
those things that you use or recommend?
Um, I I I was not trained in emotional freedom technique. I've heard about it and I think it's excellent. Um, I do a little bit of tapping, but not a lot. I mean, it's just like once in a while. If I am also my work is very intuitive, so if I am moved to do something like that, then I will. And I do drumming, right, which is a kind of tapping. And what was the other thing that you mentioned besides tapping? Oh,
Pranayama?
breathing. Okay, now let me
Yes.
tell you that breathing. Okay, what I said earlier on is that we as healers, we're not doing the healing work. Actually, we're just being present. That's what facilitating healing is all about: is being present for the other person. And when you're being present, what does that come down to? It's breathing, isn't it? Right?
Hmm.
And the thing is that the more advanced healing techniques actually do not involve any kind of hand positions or movement. It's just, you're just there. So I would say that, in my opinion, okay, I don't know about other people in the field, but in my opinion, EFT and any kind of breathing technique would also be considered energy medicine. In fact, the way I've always explained to people since 20 years ago when I started teaching, that the basis of all healing is intention. So if you have an intention to heal, it's going to happen. And the key is the purity of the intention. So,
Okay, two things that you kind of touched on there. One, I wanted to ask a question. I'm going to do that first, but I'm going to come back to the intention right after that because I think it's critical because it really goes to the subconscious mind, which is really what's in control of your body. But
mhm,
there is a term, EMDR, eye
mhm,
movement desensitization and
mhm,
reprogramming, reprocessing, or something. Uh,
mhm.
I know that's used a fair amount with success for PTSD.
Yes.
Is one of the modalities that you practice or are aware of?
I am aware of it. In fact, one of my clients, who is now a student of mine, is an EMDR therapist, and I believe she teaches others to learn that. She trains other clinicians, but she uses a lot of different modalities, including EMDR. So I'm not sure which one that she trains, but I believe it's EMDR. And she and I will probably collaborate in the future because she first of all, as a client, and in fact I have an interview by her that I will post soon in my social media, but she just after yeah, 3 or 4 sessions with me, she was able to become a better therapist because she used the tools that I taught her, personally and professionally, and became much better at her work. And so because of that, she signed up for my classes. And so we've just completed level 1 and 21 days of self-care and a retreat. And so in fact, 2 days from now we're going to have level 2. And she has just been such a great student. So yeah.
Okay, intentions. Now, when I look at the subconscious mind,
Hmm.
wants and needs communicate to the conscious mind, which really has not much control over what we want.
Hmm.
However, if I start saying I intend to do this, I expect to do this, now we're talking to a different part of the brain.
Hmm.
So when you start talking about healing and intentions, it makes a lot of sense to me because now the part of the brain that's actually in charge of our decisions, our actions, and things like that is actively being uh, utilized for part of that process to make a change. Is
Hmm.
that a fair statement?
Yes, very fair. And I mean, that's the reason why also we can get into talking about prayer. That prayer works. Again, that's about intention, right? So they're not doing all the, hands on this and that, right? It's just prayer, right? And it's even like for somebody that's far from you, right? Just like distance healing. So again, it's the intention, right? And that is an energy signature in itself. So.
Generational healing is another topic that I did some research, and that's one of those things. What is generational healing?
Okay, generational healing, at least the kind that I do, is I would say most similar to the Hawaiian uh, healing tradition of Ho'oponopono.
Mhm.
And basically, uh, the concept, the premise is that we carry the energy, uh, memories of all our ancestors. And um, so, for example, if somebody in our lineage um, has done something, made a mistake, and that can be that negative energy or memory, or transgression, whatever, can be carried through the generations. And so we can we can cleanse the generational trauma by doing ancestral healing. And again, it has to do with intention. And yes, generational healing is pretty powerful and can it's hard to explain. You have to experience it yourself. But obviously, you're going to have that belief that we carry, not just the genetic imprint of our ancestors, but also the energetic imprint of our ancestors, and that we are all one. So when we are healing ourselves, we are healing, um, really everybody else, not just your own ancestors, and vice versa. So,
Well, I'm a little familiar with the Hawaiian Oponopono.
yeah.
It's been a while since I actually looked at it, but
Mhm.
there was another, let me hear, I know one other thing I wanted to cover before we got right down to the end. It was HARA, HARA alignment. Is that
Right.
something you can talk just briefly about before we wrap up the show today?
Hara alignment. Okay, so you know about the meridians, right? Those are energy lines in your physical body that the acupuncturists use, right? And there's the chakras or energy centers, which are at where the joints meet, as well as along your torso, and other places as well. And then the hara lines are a step above the chakras and the energy centers. So it is a line that basically it, well, to me, okay, the way I have experienced it, it's basically a line that connects you to your higher self, right? To your heaven, right? And then through the heart. Some people talk about the dantian, which is lower than the heart center, and then down into the ground to the earth, the source in the earth. So it's kind of like this line, this alignment that connects these 3 points: heaven, earth, and your heart. You see the gate. So, I mean, that's the way I understand it. I'm sure other people have other descriptions and all that. And when you're talking about spiritual matters, it really depends on how you experience it. It's very personal, right? No matter how intuitive you are, you're still limited by your own perception and perspective. So by the same token, there are many different models of energy anatomy, and some have 7 chakras, some have 12, 13, whatever, right? 24, a gazillion. Again, it depends on who was it that discovered that particular technique, and and created a curriculum, I guess, for other people to learn. So.
Okay, as we're winding up, is there anything that you wanted to cover today that we didn't get a chance to? Because we can always bring you back later on. There's lots and lots and lots of things to talk about, not only on this show, but on other shows on the USA Global TV and Radio Network.
Right, right. Well, I would like to talk about the fact that right now my focus is on training, or teaching people who are teaching or caring for other people. That way, because there are only so many one-on-one healings I can do. I'm just one person, and there's only 24 hours in a day. So by teaching others who are also, say, teachers or care providers, then more people will benefit. So I really am focused on the classes that I teach, which is Reiki 1 and Reiki 2, with a bunch of training in between as well. And it's very different from the way other people teach Reiki, because I focus on experiencing the human energy field. And the students are really, they love it. They really, we're all very bonded right now. We just had our first round of classes, and I'm getting ready to offer the next round of classes.
How do people get in touch with you?
The
What are
best
your
way
preferred? Go ahead.
the best way right now is through my phone. It is 832-477-0407. Because I am just all over the place, and I hardly can keep up with my emails. So my mobile phone is the best way to get a hold of me.
Fantastic. So that's 832-477-0407. And the EM woman, Emilia Young, thank you so very much for joining us today. I really and truly appreciate it. And I look forward to our next visit, or at least
Yes,
our next conversation, even if we're not uh, physically or
absolutely,
virtually
absolutely.
connected.
Yes, yes, I'd love that.
Take care now. We'll catch you later. Red O'Laughlin getting ready to wrap up the Wise Ones today on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. Immediately following this one, in about 12 minutes or so, Talking Heads is the next show, and I started a new topic called The Heart of Health. And in reality, it's just not the heart itself, there's more to it. But if we want to be the heart of the matter, being able to have that healthy body and mind that we can enjoy life, this is a topic that I think will really and truly mean a lot. I wrote a book and I covered two primary causes of aging, but there are a dozen or more. Some of them are not major factors, some of them can contribute. But in the process of reviewing the next couple, 3 weeks of things, I felt it's super important to go back and pull up some of these things with regard to aging, because if we're taking care of our heart, but we're not taking care of our gut, or we're not taking care of our emotional being, our mental health, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. So right now I'm concentrating today primarily on, let's follow up on the aging aspects. What can we do? What can we expect? And go from there. So Talking Heads next, 1 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Eastern US on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. And with that, I bid you adieu, and we will catch you next week. Take care. Oh, and never mind. I was going to tell you the guest next week, and I misplaced that paper. So sorry about that. Take care, and we'll catch you next week. Bye now.